this is a problem people run into all the time, which is, do I have faith or do I question everything? People listen to gurus and the gurus say, you just need to believe, you just need to have faith and just do exactly what I say and then everything will work out. And then on the other side, there's a bunch of people saying, you need to be more analytical, you need to use the scientific method, you should question everything that comes across your plate. And people get really confused because those things seem like the exact opposite. And they're both right. And so the solution to this is learn how to have faith and then question everything. And so if you're a person who is often led astray by like some advice where you go down this rabbit hole following somebody's instructions for, 3 years and then lifting your head back up and realizing that it didn't take you where you wanted to go, then you were going through a phase of life where you were having faith, but you weren't questioning. You weren't checking if the thing was right. And then if you're a person who is kind of stubborn and you're always finding yourself questioning people and you're not willing to try the things that they recommend that you do without like a 20-page explanation telling you why it's the right thing to do, or you're that person who comments on the internet, source please, or, well, was there a scientific study that proves this? If you're one of those people who constantly is asking that question, then you're a person who's using the fact that something can be easily disproven through fancy words as an excuse to not take action. And so you have to constantly balance these two things, which is have faith and question everything. The way you do it is you utilize both methods in a package. So you look for a good source of information. And this you take the time to question. For example, you're looking for somebody to teach you martial arts or teach you how to grow your business. You go and look for the martial arts academy that has good reviews on Yelp. You look for the business coaches that other people say are helpful. And then you sign up, you take the class, and you do exactly what they say. Because you're a nobody who knows nothing, and they're an authority who knows something. Not questioning, having faith, and choosing to just do what somebody says is the fastest way to learn. So you do that in order to soak up the information. But you only do that for a week or a month or at max like 3 months. And then you test it. You take all of the things that you were taught and you try to implement it independently of what people have been telling you to do. You try to implement it in a way that makes sense in your life. And then you go, is this useful? And some of these things are built in, right? If you're going to a martial arts studio, hopefully they have sparring sessions, right? And so you spar with somebody and you find out if you are actually getting better at martial arts. Now, if you want to get really certain, then you go to other studios and you spar other people at different studios who learn different schools of martial arts. And you find out, was I better able to defend myself? Was I better able to handle myself in that situation? And if that's the case, then okay, I'm learning something useful in this school. I will go back to that school and I will have even more faith. And then I'll go test again in another month. You have faith for a little bit, and then you check in to see if you're getting results. And this is the key that people struggle with, is they don't balance testing and faith. The reason why you need both is because faith accelerates your learning process. Belief, trust. Nobody builds a building faster than a cult building a church, because the cult is completely aligned. It believes in everything. And so they have no hesitation about what they're doing, and so they act quickly. And that's really powerful and very good. But at the same time, we know cults often fail, and the reason why they fail is because they don't question anything for so long that bad information gets into the system and they get led astray going in a wrong direction really fast. And so cults blow up faster than most societies, most groups, most communities, most organizations, because they're fast executing on bad information, because they only have the faith component and they don't have the science component of questioning. At the same time, what's the community that moves the slowest? The scientific community moves like slugs. They're so slow to release papers. They're so slow to get real results. And they're constantly arguing about what's right and wrong. And on the surface, that looks good. But actually, they're not encouraging a healthy use of the scientific method, which should include a level of faith, where you just try stuff. And you go, well, let's operate as if this were true. Let's see what happens. And so if you want success in your life, you have to learn how to implement these two things. You have to learn how to implement faith and critical thought. People use different words for it, but belief and critical thought are the two core things that help you move forward the fastest. One speeds you up, and one keeps you accurate. Last example I'll use, I was a music teacher for 7 or 8 years. When I was a music teacher, the students that were the worst and learned the slowest were the ones that questioned me. Why? Well, it's because I was already a good source of musical information, because I had been educated by a lineage of skilled musicians. And so the source was already good, so the child was wasting time by asking me why. I'm not saying you shouldn't give an explanation to a student when they need one, but if the kids are wired to the degree that their automatic response to everything is why, instead of, okay, let me try it, then it's going to hold up the educational experience. And so I would actually teach kids to trust me. I would say, hey, this is going to sound bad, and you're going to feel like it's wrong. And I want you to do it anyways, because if you do it 20 times, then all of a sudden you're going to learn a new thing, and the end result is it's going to sound better. But kids with low trust would really struggle with that. They would want it to sound right the moment that they started. Sometimes it was the really intelligent kids that would struggle with this a lot, because they weren't educated on all the different mechanisms for making progress. One mechanism is to question. There are other mechanisms. Another one is to believe. Another one is to try. The kids that would progress the fastest were the ones that had really high admiration for me, because they were like, wow, you're really good at stuff. I'll just do what you do. I'll just do what you tell me to do. And they would actually learn the fastest because they had belief. They were lucky because it was me. They were lucky because I was a good source. And so this is a really dangerous concept that we have to be careful with in life, because if you're going to a bad source, having faith is the fastest way to mess yourself up. But if you're going to a good source, questioning them is the fastest way to mess yourself up. And so as a result, you have to balance the two techniques. You have to learn to take time to implement without question. And then you have to take time to question the implementation. The ultimate way to increase the speed of your progress and the accuracy of your progress at the same time is to learn to tighten the loop of learning, the iterative loop. And part of that iterative loop is to try, and part of it is to observe and decide. And we try better when we just believe. And we observe and decide when we are questioning. And so if you want to make progress, you have to do both. Usually people with high self-worth struggle to make progress because they question stuff more, and people with low self-worth struggle because they have too much faith. Because the people with high self-worth, they're like, oh, well, my center is right. So anything that isn't coming from my center, I'm going to doubt by default. And people who have low self-worth, they're like, well, I don't believe in my center, so what should my center be? They tend to just believe all the time. If you are making mistakes of belief, then you need to build up your own center, build up your own personal frame to where you understand, oh, I have judgment. I have the capacity to decide. I know that I am generally on the correct path, but more information helps. And so when I get more information, I will test it in good faith, but then I won't think that it's going to become my savior. I won't think that it's going to fix everything for me. I will pull back and then I'll go, is this working for me? But if you're really high self-worth or high ego, you're going to have the exact opposite problem, where you are going to have trouble changing directions because you're going to be like, well, obviously my thing is right. Obviously I'm doing a great job. And so why are you even suggesting I try these other things? This doesn't make any sense. Prove it to me, right? Yeah. And that's going to slow down your ability to change direction so much. And so everybody has their own thing that will drag them down, and you have to spot which thing it is for you. When I said you should start practicing decisiveness, I say that because when you make a decision, and we know like the root word of decide means to cut off. When you cut off different paths and you choose a specific path, then you start to get results from whatever that path is, and it creates the opportunity to then observe those results and make a new decision. And so the faster you're able to make decisions, if you're a person who tends to struggle on the faith side of things, where you're believing too much, then each time you decide, what's going to happen is you're going to change direction slightly. And each time you change direction slightly, you're going to self-observe. You're going to notice what's going on, and you're going to go like, is this working? Like, because you just naturally have to do that in the process of making a decision. And so as you become more decisive, you become more capable of questioning what's going on. You become more capable of adjusting when things aren't working. And so if you practice making decisions more often and practice taking less time to make those decisions, then you start to have more faith in your ability to make decisions. And you start to make more of them. When you do that, you spend less time on the blind faith side of things. You spend less time waiting around going, well, I'm not sure what's right. I know it's going to be a big deal if I do this wrong. And so let me think really hard about what the perfect decision is. And then, okay, I've decided that's the perfect decision. But that took me like 3 months to decide that thing. And so I better stop deciding and just believe in this thing for the next 6 months. And so now this is the decision I made. I just have to live in it. So now I'm in blind faith. Right? If you decide more, you don't feel that sunk cost of the weight of a decision, right? Because somebody who stresses over decisions, they're hard. They take a lot of time, and you don't want to let go of your decision because you're like, I spent 3 months figuring this out. And so if I say no to this thing because I found out that it's the wrong direction, then I'm going to have to spend another 3 months trying to figure out the next thing, right? And so you don't want to change your decision because it feels so expensive. And so this gets people stuck in the blind faith of, well, I invested so much into this product that I'm developing. I've got to sell this exact product. And then they build the wrong product for 3 to 6 months. Or a year or longer, and then they never have a business. People get stuck in a relationship where they're like, I stressed so much about which relationship I was going to get into that now that I'm in a relationship, well, I just better make this work. And I know that, this person's being abusive and I'm being gaslighted and all these other bad things are happening, but I spent all this worry in it. And so now I just got to believe in it, right? If instead you practice being decisive, where you go into a relationship and you're like, okay, I'm going to act this way in this relationship and see if it's great. And I'm just going to do my best to have a great time in this connection right here, right now. I'm not going to worry about, whether or not I need to make a bunch of other decisions down the road, or if it's going to take a really long time for me to figure out if this is right. I'm just going to see if I can live right now. And then you go, okay, this is going great. I really like this person. So then you can start to implement more belief and faith along the way. Or you can go, wow, that was really bad, but it only took me like 60 seconds to decide I was going to hang out with this person. And so now it's just going to take me 60 seconds to decide I don't want to hang out with this person, right? And so there's less stress on it. And there's lots of ways this can go wrong, right? Somebody can become super chaotic where they just decide. This person, now that person, this product, now that product. But that's not the thing that you are struggling with. You are struggling with, I will get stuck on something and spend way too long with it. And so it's really important to understand that different people have different problems. You can't just implement one framework and be done. You have to figure out, what's the bottleneck in my life? Where am I struggling? And what's the thing I need to do to balance it? A lot of people struggle with making faster decisions because they fear the energy they're going to have to put into an action after the decision. And so they'll take a long time to make a decision because they're like, well, then I'm going to have to invest all this action. So that's another challenge, which is you have to learn how to invest your action in more efficient ways. You have to be willing to do things in a way that, you try quickly and efficiently at first. You try to do something with ease, right? If every action you take is going to be difficult, then you're going to be very indecisive about which actions to make. But if action is easy, then you're going to be like, oh, well, we'll just try that, right? And so another thing you can do to get yourself to become more decisive is learn how to take more efficient actions. Learn how to act with ease. And if you do that, then you will feel less fear about whether or not your decision is right or wrong. So for you right now, you've got to commit to, I'm going to spend a little bit less time on my decisions, and I'm going to learn how to take action efficiently and easily once I've made a decision. And if you commit to those two things, then you're going to be more willing to make faster decisions, and you will make faster decisions. And so you've got to combine those two, and then you're going to have more experiences of decisiveness, more experiences of healthy questioning of the world around you, observation and testing. And you're going to learn more about what things you really should believe in, what things you really should be having faith in and acting on with power. But that's what you've got to commit to, is I'm going to make faster decisions, and I'm not going to stress about the action after the decision. I'm going to find ways to do the easy version of what I've decided upon. And then when you do that, you're going to have less stress around it. You're going to have more iterative loops of learning. You're going to learn more, and you're going to start going in more accurate directions. And then once you're going in those more accurate directions, then you'll be able to implement more belief and faith to know, yes, I'm going in the right direction. I can just go hard on this path, and my life will get better. I don't know of any books that really would do this for you. This is a life experience that you have to have. This actually is in the program. It's in one of the later units. If you go through the program all the way, this will be talked about. And if you want to learn it, the program that I teach actually gives you reps on this skill. And it's one of the keys to becoming a more powerful person. If you want better decisions and principles to make more money, build an audience, and get your life together, go to the link in the description or go to apply.joshterryplays.com.